At 4:43 p.m., in the pouring rain of rural Georgia, a female mechanic knelt beside a broken-down SUV, soaked to the bone, hands steady on a rusted wrench. "No charge," she told the stranger. "This is just an act of kindness." She thought that was the end of it. But just hours later, the skies thundered, and a military helicopter landed beside her quiet auto repair shop. Stepping out wasn't a stranded traveler, but a decorated officer with a gift she never saw coming. This isn't just a car repair story. It's a powerful reminder that even one repair girl, in the rain, can change everything. But first, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing our amazing community from around the world. And if this story touches your heart, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let's get started. In a quiet rural town tucked away in Georgia, where the roads curve gently through cotton fields and the scent of pine lingers in the air, there stood an old auto repair shop with a tin roof that sang with every raindrop. Its faded sign read, "Jesse's Auto and Tire." Inside, working tirelessly with hands worn by time and heart strengthened by purpose, was Jessie, a true female mechanic, a repair girl in every sense of the word. She wasn't there for the photos or to break stereotypes. She was there for the car repair, for the grease, for the people. Locals affectionately called her the angel in overalls. Jessie's days were filled with the rhythm of tools and engines. But what made her special wasn't just skill, it was her spirit. She believed in acts of kindness, helping anyone in need, whether they were friends or strangers. Rain or shine, she never turned anyone away. That's why, on a rainy afternoon, when a stranger's car sputtered near her shop, Jessie didn't hesitate. She grabbed her toolkit, stepped into the rain, and headed out, not knowing that one small act of kindness was about to echo louder than the storm itself. The sky over Georgia had turned heavy with gray, and soon the quiet hum of the town was overtaken by the steady rhythm of a cold downpour. Jessie was just locking up for the day, wiping her hands on a rag streaked with grease, when she heard it, the choking cough of an engine that didn't want to die. Peering out from beneath the garage awning, she saw it, a beat-up SUV, soaked and sputtering, coming to a jerky stop at the side of the road. Its hazard lights blinked weakly like a distress call. Behind the wheel sat a man, middle-aged, unfamiliar, his hands clenching the steering wheel as if holding on to hope itself. Jessie didn't wait. Grabbing her old green toolbox, she pulled on her rain jacket and stepped directly into the rain. The wind bit at her cheeks, her boots sank slightly in the mud, but she didn't slow down. This wasn't the first time she'd helped a stranger's car, and it wouldn't be the last. "Stay inside. I've got it," she called out as she popped the hood. The engine bay was a mess of frayed belts and moisture-soaked wires. Jessie's hands moved with confidence. Years of experience had taught her how to listen, not just with ears, but with instinct. She replaced a loose spark plug, cleaned the distributor cap, and gently tightened the alternator belt. The man stepped out, offering his wallet with shaky hands. "I can pay. Just tell me how much." Jessie looked up, water dripping from her eyelashes. Her voice was firm but kind. "You don't owe me a thing. You're stuck in the rain, and I don't charge for acts of kindness." And with that, she finished the car repair, as she always did, not for recognition, not for payment, but because it was the right thing to do. As the SUV roared back to life, the stranger's eyes welled with something deeper than gratitude. "You'll be repaid," he whispered, more to himself than to her. Jessie simply smiled and turned back to her little auto repair shop, unaware that the winds of fate were already circling just above the clouds. The rain passed just before dawn, leaving behind puddles that shimmered under the first rays of light. Jessie arrived early to her little auto repair shop, coffee in hand, ready to sweep out the leaves that had blown in overnight. Her arms were sore, and her boots were still damp from the night before, but she smiled anyway. Helping that stranger had warmed something deeper than skin. Then came the sound. Low at first, a vibration in her chest, a soft hum, growing louder, heavier. The unmistakable thump-thump-thump of rotor blades. Jessie stepped outside, shielding her eyes. A military helicopter was descending onto the open field just beside her shop. The noise pulled neighbors from their homes. Within minutes, a crowd had formed along the fence line, whispers turning into gasps. Jessie stood frozen, heart pounding, grease-smudged hands still gripping her broom. The aircraft settled with practiced precision. The side door opened, and stepping out was the very man she had helped, now wearing a crisp military uniform decorated with insignia and medals. Behind him, 2 officers followed. Jessie blinked in disbelief. He approached with calm authority but warm eyes, stopping in front of her as the blades slowed behind them. "You didn't know who I was," he began, voice steady over the fading roar. "But you helped anyway. That matters more than any rank I hold." She recognized him now, the man with the broken SUV, standing taller, prouder, yet just as grateful. "I'm Colonel Richard Bowman, commander of the 82nd Airborne Logistics Unit," he continued. "And today, I'm not here for military duty. I'm here because a female mechanic, a repair girl with a heart bigger than this town, chose compassion over cost." Jessie's mouth opened, but no words came. The colonel turned and signaled. From the belly of the chopper, 2 soldiers emerged, carrying sleek black crates, packed with professional-grade equipment, diagnostic tools, and even a portable lift system. "For your shop," he said. "Because kindness like yours deserves to fly farther than any helicopter ever could." The townsfolk erupted in applause. Jessie stood there, trembling, caught between awe and disbelief, never imagining that a single act of kindness could lead to this moment. Jessie stood still as the crates were gently placed beside her garage door, tools gleaming, brand new. The crowd slowly began to gather around, whispering her name, exchanging knowing glances. No one had expected this. Not from a stranger. Not from the sky. Colonel Bowman walked back toward her, this time holding something smaller, an envelope, worn and slightly creased from travel. He extended it with both hands, a reverent gesture. "This," he said, "is what truly matters to us." Jessie opened the envelope with cautious fingers. Inside was a handwritten letter, pages covered in heartfelt words, signed by dozens of soldiers from Bowman's unit. Each note told of how her story had reached them, how her simple act of kindness reminded them of humanity, of home, of what they were fighting for. To the repair girl who didn't hesitate in the rain, one line read, "Your courage traveled farther than our aircraft ever could." Jessie's hands trembled as she held the letter close. Her vision blurred with tears, not from the gift, but from the realization that her small action had inspired people far beyond her little corner of Georgia. The townspeople looked at her differently now, not just as the girl in grease-stained overalls, not just as a female mechanic in a male-dominated trade. They saw her as something more. A reminder that strength isn't in how loud you are, but how willing you are to stand in the rain for someone else. For years, Jessie had worked quietly in the background. People drove past her auto repair shop, sometimes doubting, sometimes dismissing. But now, she had become a symbol of something greater, a beacon of generosity, proof that acts of kindness, no matter how small, ripple farther than we ever imagine. And as the helicopter lifted back into the sky, its shadow stretching across the field, Jessie looked up, not to watch it go, but to remember the moment her life changed forever. A life built with tools and trust had now become a touching story shared across the nation. The following weeks brought more than just attention, they brought change. Real, tangible change. With the help of volunteers from town and a few retired veterans from Bowman's unit, Jessie's auto repair shop began to transform. The once rusted lift in the corner was replaced with a sleek, modern platform that could raise even the heaviest trucks with ease. New diagnostic scanners beeped softly as Jessie learned their features, her eyes lighting up like a child with a brand new toy. Every tool, every upgrade was a symbol, not of charity, but of recognition. For the first time in her life, Jessie wasn't fixing cars with borrowed wrenches or elbow grease alone. She had what she needed, and more importantly, she had the town behind her. Customers came in droves, not just for car repair, but to meet the now legendary repair girl who stood in the rain for a stranger. Some came from nearby towns. Others drove hours just to shake her hand and say thank you for the act of kindness that had reminded them of the good still left in the world. Even young girls began stopping by, eyes wide with curiosity. "Can I be a mechanic too?" they'd ask. Jessie always smiled, knelt to their level, and said, "You can be anything. But if your heart's in it, this job will change you." Local news stations ran stories. A segment aired on national morning television. The small-town female mechanic who gave without expectation had become a quiet icon. And yet, Jessie remained the same. She still opened her shop early. She still stayed late when someone needed their vehicle before work. And on rainy afternoons, she still looked out the window, remembering the day everything changed, not because of fame or fortune, but because one broken SUV gave her the chance to do what she always believed in: show up, step forward, and never hesitate when someone needs help. The shop now bore a new sign, polished and bold: Jessie's Auto and Tire, where kindness turns the engine. A simple phrase, but one that spoke volumes, a legacy written not in oil and bolts, but in the heart she touched. Months passed. The buzz died down, the cameras left, and the spotlight faded, but something within Jessie had quietly, steadily changed. For years, she had carried the quiet weight of proving herself, not just as a female mechanic, but as a woman trying to survive in a world that often overlooked hands like hers. Every grease stain on her coveralls told a story, of long nights, tough customers, and engines that refused to cooperate. And through it all, she stayed quiet, determined, and kind. But now, she walked differently. Not with pride or ego, that wasn't Jessie's way. But with a quiet confidence that came from being seen, not just for what she did, but for why she did it. Her small auto repair shop, once humble and forgotten, had become a place of meaning. A space where people brought not just broken cars, but broken spirits, and walked away feeling whole again. Children dropped by after school just to say hello. Teenagers asked to shadow her, curious about spark plugs and brake lines. And more than once, an older veteran would sit on the porch out front, just to watch Jessie work, their eyes misty, their stories quietly shared over the sound of turning wrenches. Jessie had become more than a repair girl. She had become a thread in the fabric of the community. A living example that acts of kindness do not fade, they multiply. That when one person chooses goodness, it gives others permission to do the same. And inside, Jessie began to believe in something she never dared to name before: her own worth. She had never chased fame. But what she'd gained was far more precious: purpose, connection, and the knowledge that even the smallest good deed could become part of someone else's inspirational story. On one quiet evening, as she locked up the shop and looked out at the dusk falling across Georgia fields, Jessie whispered to herself, "This is enough. More than enough." And it truly was. The rain had come and gone. But what it left behind was a woman stronger, steadier, and more rooted than ever, not just in her work, but in her place in the world. On the edge of that quiet Georgia town, where wildflowers brushed against weathered fences and sunlight spilled onto gravel roads, Jessie's Auto and Tire still stood, but it wasn't just a garage anymore. It had become a living chapter in a touching story. A place where kindness had been planted, and now bloomed in unexpected ways. People didn't come only for car repairs. They came for coffee on the porch. For stories told under the eaves when the rain tapped softly above. For the warmth in Jessie's voice when she said, "We'll figure it out," even when their wallets were thin and their cars barely running. And Jessie? She never let it change her. She still worked in the same oil-streaked overalls. Still got under hoods, knuckles scraped, hands deep in engine grease. But now, There was a peace in her movement, as if every turn of the wrench echoed a deeper rhythm, one of belonging, of fulfillment. Sometimes, visitors would ask about the helicopter story, about the colonel, about the gift. She'd smile, gesture to the lift, the new tools, the plaque on the wall that read, "To the one who fixed more than engines, thank you for showing us how to fly." But Jessie didn't dwell on the fame. That moment, as grand as it had been, was only part of her story. What mattered more was what came after, the quiet, steady ripple of goodness. Because what began as a simple act of kindness in the rain had become a legacy, one carried not in headlines, but in the choices people made after hearing about her. A young woman opened her own garage in a nearby county. A high school student started a kindness club in Jessie's honor. And one elderly man, who had once lost faith in people, left her a letter that read, "You reminded me of who I used to be." Jessie never set out to inspire. She just showed up, again and again, for whoever needed her. And in doing so, she taught an entire town, maybe even a country, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can be is simply good. Not everyone holds a wrench. Not everyone knows how to fix an engine. But anyone can choose kindness, even when it's inconvenient, even in the rain. As twilight settled over the rooftops of rural Georgia, Jessie locked up her little garage, not as a mechanic finishing her shift, but as a woman who had quietly rewritten what it means to show up for others. She didn't just repair broken cars. She reminded a town, and maybe the world, that being strong doesn't mean being loud, and that courage can look like a grease-stained girl in overalls kneeling in the mud for a stranger. The tools she used were simple. But what she built? That was something far greater. Because in a world too often rushed, too often divided, Jessie offered a pause, a story that said, "You matter. I see you. Let me help." And now, her story belongs to every young woman told she doesn't belong in a garage. To every small-town dreamer who wonders if anyone's watching. To everyone who's ever given without expecting anything in return. Jessie never wanted the spotlight. But in choosing grace over gain, she lit a path for others to follow with open hands, open hearts, and maybe a socket wrench or two. Because for Jessie, and for all of us, kindness isn't the end of the story. It's only the beginning. The end. Up next, 2 more real stories that prove humanity still shines. Tap to keep watching, and if you believe in kindness, don't forget to hit subscribe.